Chapter 4. A Broken System. The Illusion of Justice. For as long as Ben Brashen could remember, he had believed in the promise of the legal system. It was supposed to be the ultimate equalizer, where truth prevailed and lies were unraveled. But now, as he sat in yet another courtroom, watching the judge dismiss one of his motions as insufficiently supported, he wondered if the system was just another weapon in Mike Krill's hands. How is this happening? Ben thought, gripping the edges of the table. I have the truth. I have the evidence. Why isn't it enough? The problem wasn't just Mike. It felt like the entire system was against him. Every ruling seemed to favor Mike. Every objection Ben's lawyer raised was overruled, and every piece of evidence Mike produced, no matter how flimsy or fabricated, was treated as gospel. The judge's shadow. At first, Ben chalked it up to bad luck. Maybe the judge was having a bad day. Maybe Mike's attorneys were just that good. But as the hearings dragged on, a darker thought began to creep into Ben's mind. It feels like even the judge is involved, Ben whispered to his lawyer during a recess. How else do you explain this? Every time we make progress, it gets shot down. His lawyer hesitated, then leaned in close. It's not that the judge is involved, Ben. It's that the system favors people like Mike. Judges hate messy cases, and Mike's team makes everything messy. The judge is looking for an easy way out, and Mike's giving it to them. It made sense in a way. Mike's attorneys, Mark Wallyworld Walters and Danny So Many Words Danforth, were masters of legal chaos. They filed endless motions, each one more convoluted than the last, creating a procedural minefield that exhausted the court as much as it did Ben. And the judge, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of filings, seemed more interested in clearing their docket than in seeking justice. The fight of his life. Ben felt like a boxer in the ring, except this wasn't a fair fight. He was standing in the middle of the ring, gloves up, ready to defend himself. But Mike wasn't playing by the rules. He was running around sucker-punching Ben from behind, kicking him in the balls, and taking a Tonya Harding-style baseball bat to Ben's Nancy Kerrigan knees. The blows kept coming. Every time Ben thought he had scored a point, disproving one of Mike's claims or exposing another lie, Mike hit him with something else. A new lawsuit. A false police report. Another motion designed to drain his resources and morale. You can't fight like this, Ben said to his lawyer after one particularly brutal hearing. He's not even in the ring with me. He's in the stands, throwing grenades. His lawyer nodded grimly. That's the point. Mike doesn't want a fair fight. He wants to make sure you never get the chance to land a punch. The truth doesn't matter. The hardest part for Ben to accept was that the truth didn't seem to matter. He had evidence, emails, financial records, eyewitness accounts that should have exonerated him. But in the courtroom, truth was just another piece of the puzzle, and Mike controlled the bigger picture. During one hearing, Ben's attorney presented incontrovertible proof that one of Mike's key pieces of evidence, a shareholder derivative filing backed by dozens of previous case law articles, had been ignored. Ben thought it would be a turning point. Instead, the judge dismissed it as irrelevant to the larger case. Are you kidding me? Ben whispered as the judge moved on. How is that irrelevant? It's a lie. But lies, Ben realized, were Mike's currency. The more lies he told, the harder it became to untangle them all. It was like fighting a hydra. Cut off one head and two more grew in its place. The system's silence. What made it worse was the silence from the system itself. Every time Mike was caught in a lie or a procedural abuse, the consequences were minimal. A mild rebuke from the judge, a token sanction. None of it was enough to deter him. Mike's attorneys thrived in this environment. Mark Wallyworld's discovery abuses went unchecked, and Danny So Many Words' verbose motions wasted hours of court time with no penalty. Even when Ben's team pushed back, filing their own motions for sanctions, the court's response was tepid at best. "It's like the system doesn't care," Ben said one night, staring at the mountain of paperwork on his kitchen table. "It doesn't care about justice. It just cares about keeping the machine running." His lawyer didn't disagree. "The system wasn't built for people like Mike, Ben. It assumes good faith, and Mike exploits that. It's like letting a wolf into a chicken coop and wondering why the chickens keep disappearing." The breaking point. By the time the court ruled against Ben on yet another motion, he was near his breaking point. It didn't matter how much evidence he had or how many lies he disproved. The system seemed rigged to favor the aggressor, the one who was willing to exploit its weaknesses without remorse. How does someone like Mike get away with this? Ben thought as he left the courtroom, the judge's ruling still ringing in his ears. How does a system that's supposed to protect people let someone like him thrive? For the first time, Ben considered walking away, not because he thought Mike was right, but because the fight seemed impossible. The truth didn't matter. The rules didn't matter. All that mattered was who could play the game better, and Mike had written the rule book, a glimmer of resolve. And yet, even as he teetered on the edge of despair, something inside Ben refused to quit. Maybe it was stubbornness, or maybe it was the realization that giving up would mean letting Mike win. He couldn't let that happen, not just for himself, but for everyone else who might find themselves in the crosshairs of someone like Mike. This isn't justice, Ben thought, his fists clenched. This is war, and if Mike wants a war, he's going to get one.